So the USA won gold in 2024 in what was probably their least convincing Olympic win since, well, the last Olympics. But in this video, we're going to be talking about whether or not I think they're going to win in 2028, or whether or not, not necessarily they're going to win, or whether or not they should be favorites for 2028. Before we get on to, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. We are trying to hit 310,000, or 10, not 1,000, 310 subscribers by the end of the day. That would be absolutely incredible. But we're going to talk right now. So, for me, Team USA in 2028 is going to be a much different, it's a much different team. And I think it's not going to be a team that has that much experience, because I think a lot of the players that you would think are going to make this team either don't suit international play or probably won't be on the team or like won't have played together. So this is one of the rumored teams, and it's Tyrese Halliburton. Like, for me, this is a team that will lose. Like, this team will not win gold. You have brought two things that resemble post players, and it's Chet and Bam Adebayo. We've seen Bam look exceptionally good, and we've seen games where Bam looked bad in both the this Olympics and last Olympics. And then you've got Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren's to deal with those big Eastern Europeans who play bully ball inside and are going to just dominate with the way because there's no back to the basket rule, and just back the dude down the whole time. It's hard. And like, even when we saw Wembanyama, we saw at times, like, he's a different animal to a Chet Holmgren, as great as Chet Holmgren is. Like, this team would not win gold. Like, what are you supposed to do with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5 players that aren't good when they don't have the ball? Actually, no, sorry. Tatum, I won't put Tatum in that. You've got 6 players that aren't good with the ball not in their hands. Like, this is actually a potential team. This is one of the worst teams I think I've ever seen a team put together. This is just put together the 12 names you can think of. But players that... There are players that could make team. I think Embiid's going to be there next... Actually, you know what? Embiid's not going to play in next Olympics. He's not. Embiid's got his Olympic medal. He doesn't care. That man is as American as I am. He could not care less. He's not going to play for national pride. But I think the guarantees are Booker. I think Anthony Edwards is a guarantee. I think the team's probably going to be built around that man. Jaylen Brown is almost certainly not going to play. I think Jason Tatum's not going to play. Brunson will be there. Tyrese Halliburton will be there. And then what's the point of bringing Fox and Ja? Like, this reminds me of like the women's team, where you just picked a bunch of names and you've got 6 players to play the same position. If this is the USA 2028 team, that is the worst Team USA team I've ever seen. I'm not joking. This is the worst Team USA team I've ever seen. That team would not win gold. But in general, I think we're looking at a couple of key things. One of these, there's got to be a big coming up from America that has to be elite. Like, Donovan Clingan is a perfect, because he's 7'2", he's big, he's got a nice base, he's got decent lower body strength, he's not a twig. I think Donovan Clingan could really, really help if he ends up being anything. Unfortunately, Zach Edey's Canadian. But if I'm America, I look for at least one spot for a non-NBA player. I look overseas. I'm looking at some of these guys that are... You obviously don't find this guy, but like, you look over to find whoever the equivalent of a Kyle Hines is. Somebody who plays international ball, knows how to bang with the bigs inside. They don't need to be an NBA player. Probably best if they're not an NBA player. But I think Team USA, if they're smart, you bring one dude who is a dominant EuroLeague big man, because they're going to be able to compete with the bigs. We saw it in the Olympics. Embiid at times looked good, especially in that game against Serbia. But Jokic plays like an NBA big. USA could not deal with the FIBA bigs. They never have, because they play a different style of play. The rules are different. So they're really going to struggle. If you're Team USA, it's not about replacing these 3 guys, because you're not going to do that. There's nobody coming up through the ranks that's going to be as good as them. Your job is to build a team to win the World Cup. That's the first thing you do. Is you start making your team next summer. You have some form of a Team USA camp. Doesn't have to be anything too serious. Just get your team playing with each other. And you pick your teams based on that camp. If players don't want to show up to that camp, fuck them. Get rid of them. Because Team USA have 60 players that could make, Team USA have 150 to 200 players that will make the 12 of literally any other country in the world. So they have to look about it that way. Insert Liam Cooper meme, if you don't want to be here, then fuck off. Like, they need to start planning next summer. They need to go out to win the World Cup. Because if they just put together a group of players for the World Cup, they're not going to win the World Cup. And I don't think, like this time, you can just have a bunch of superstars in hibernation saying, I'm playing the Olympics. If KD plays, things change. If Steph is still Steph, and he plays, things change. If LeBron's still LeBron, and you might be saying there's no chance, but, I mean, LeBron's defeated Father Time already. He might defeat it even more. Like, if LeBron wants to, he can play in the league till he's 50. Like, I would not be surprised if LeBron had 10 more years in him. There are guys in the 2013 draft that look older than LeBron, who was drafted in 2003. If these three guys are back, or even if two of these guys are back, heck, even if KD's back and he's still KD, or Steph's back and he's still Steph, things might change. But the team is going to be heavily reliant on an Anthony Edwards carry job. And the one thing I will say with Anthony Edwards is he's already said he's not playing in the World Cup. Team USA, being ran by Anthony Edwards, lost 3 times. They didn't lose once, they didn't lose twice, they lost thrice. They lost 3 times in the World Cup to 3 inferior teams. And he still has now said, oh yeah, you know what, I rode the bench at an Olympics. In fairness, he was good when he was on, but I wasn't in the starting 5, I wasn't in the closing game rotation, but I'm good, I don't want to play. So, you've seen that type of attitude from the players. They've already won this Olympics, and it's coming, by the way. It's coming. Like, Drew Holiday is going to be too old. Derek White's probably going to be too old. And the NBA isn't producing enough Drew Holidays or Derek White's at that level, at that elite level. But to be fair, you can make teams can make them. Like, for me, it really just depends on how the young players come through. How good, for example, an Ace Bailey is, a Dylan Harper is. That might change things. How good like Anthony Edwards was drafted when the last Olympics should have been. So they're all going to be that same, well, they're going to be a year younger. How good a Reed Shepherd becomes as far as the guard position, but you already have too many guards. Like, I'm looking at these drafts, and Malawach is the best big in next year's draft. He's from South Sudan. The best big in this year's draft. I was going to say Alex Sarr, but I think Alex Sarr sucks. But the highest regarded big in this year's draft was Sarr. The best big in the previous draft was Victor Wembanyama. Previous draft, in fairness, it was Chet Holmgren. But USA are producing so many of the same type of players. They're producing scoring wings, who an awful lot of them have like the same archetype and build, that it could be an issue. Especially when it comes to physicality. Someone like a Mikal Bridges, his game suits perfectly, but he might not have the physicality to play, especially in the men's side overseas with the way the games are refereed. Like, I'm not saying the referees are better, but if you're playing a big game, they just won't blow their whistle. We saw in the Serbia in the second half when Team USA manhandled Serbia. You don't have they might not have a Drew Holiday, a LeBron, to just physically dominate in the next Olympics. So for me, I'm trying to convince Zion to play in the World Cup. You don't want to play someone for the first time in the Olympics. I'm trying to convince Zion to play in the World Cup. I'm trying to convince a team in the World Cup. Because they don't have enough. They won't have enough talent in 2028 to show up and win. To show up with guys who've never played international basketball and win. They don't have that talent. So it all really depends on what they do. If they don't have any sort of a camp, they bring a piss take team to the World Cup. They lose the World Cup. I can't see them winning. But should they be favorites? Yeah, they should be. Because by me saying I can't see USA winning, I think it might be at the stage where if you were to put money on the field versus America, this time in the Olympics, I said it was 75% chance America, 25% field, and I think that prediction was quite accurate. I think it might be 60% the field, 40% America in 4 years' time, but also America will be the favorites because they'll be better than any other individual country, but I still think that the field is going to have a better chance next time.